everybody. Merry Christmas and Happy Thanksgiving. This is going to air the day after Thanksgiving. So I hope y'all had a really lovely time with family and friends and some good food while you're at it. But we're here today to talk about this first batch of non-Hallmark holiday films 2023. Going to be a lot of fun. And I'm film critic Grace Wagner, and Michelle's here.
Hey everyone,
How are you doing?
here we go again.
Yes. And we did get a little bit of a break this year because not only were there just not as many movies, but Lifetime didn't start until the 18th.
Mm.
So that was kind of nice.
Give us a break this year.
Yes, yes. But so far of the overall holiday movie scenes of the ones you've seen, what do you think so far? Do you think it's been a good season?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that's really maybe one I'm kind of mixed on, but the
Uh-huh.
rest I've really enjoyed.
Yeah.
The rest have either been sort of comfort watches or
Uh-huh.
I've really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Let's say only one kind of sticks out as being a little bit sort of mixed on. Um, but yeah, other than that, I
Yeah.
think we're off to a pretty okay start. It's just a little frustrating that the two Lifetime ones I'd already seen.
Right.
Um, so hopefully next week it'll be a little bit more of
Yeah.
a fresher.
Yeah, you could feel the acquisitions a lot. And for the most part, I feel like I've been the queen of kindness in my holiday coverage this year. But there have been some turkeys. We'll talk about one in particular that I really didn't like. But for the most part, they've all been like fine and
Mhm.
then some like hidden gems and some fun ones to come out. So we'll have some variety. But yeah, let's start with Lifetime.
Mhm.
We've had two so far: Christmas Plus One and Planes, Trains, and Christmas Trees. So we actually covered Planes, Trains, and Christmas Trees last year because it didn't air on US TV, but I was able to get a link and it did air over there in the UK. Of course, at the time I was super psyched for it because I love Catherine and Olivia. I think they're so good together. And the trailer made it look super fun. But yeah, it was just okay. Do you remember kind of what you? I don't think you didn't rewatch it, did you?
I sort of had it on in the background,
Oh,
but
okay, okay.
it's yeah. I did sort of watch it and I was like, yeah, it just sort of once they get to the grandfather's house and just sort of
Uh-huh.
stay there, I feel like
Yeah.
the movie really takes a dip because you when you realize it's not really what you sign up for,
Yeah.
this sort of madcap sort of adventure, to get home back to New York,
Mm-hmm.
um, that's a little bit frustrating.
Right.
But you can't really deny the chemistry between them. It's just
Yeah.
unfortunate that this is the script that they're working with.
Right. Yeah, and I still think that it's strange it didn't get picked up last year. Like it's way
Hmm.
better than something like the Holiday Dating Guide, which Lifetime picked up last year. I mean, it's just kind of boring. That's the main problem with it. And it like promises in the trailer big hijinks and holiday fun and all this travel things, but it really they once they get to that house and that town, it just stops and it becomes kind of boring. That's the main problem with it.
Yeah, and I remembered they have a little girl in it that's sort of playing younger than what she actually is, and
Mm,
that's a little distracting.
right,
Yeah, she looks about 9 or 10, and it feels like she's playing 6 or 7.
right,
Which doesn't
yeah.
seem like a big gap, but it definitely is at that age.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so that was like super distracting. I sort of remembered that on this rewatch. I was like, oh yeah, when she appeared, I was like, yeah, I remember that being like a little bit of a frustrating
Mm,
element of the film.
yeah. I don't remember what we gave it last year, but what
Hmm.
would you give it this year for this one?
I'll probably give it 2.5. I don't think it's bad by any means. I just think, like you say,
Mm,
it's a little bit boring.
yeah. I agree. I agree. So what about Christmas Plus One? What did you think of that?
So again, I'd seen this last year. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
remember any of it. If you remember the preview, it's like completely drawn a blank.
Uh-huh.
Um, So yeah, I watched it again, and it's not that I didn't remember it for bad reasons. I think it just is one of those movies that feels like a lot of others. It's
Right.
very much like you've seen it before. It's, two sisters, they
Hmm.
make sort of these wishes to find their soulmate. We cut to a year later. The younger sister has found her soulmate. The older sister thinks she's found hers. When she sort of runs into Andrew
Hmm.
Bushell on the
Michelle.
way
Yeah.
home, Rochelle, on the way home. But I do think it is a nice sort of play on, you watch a lot of these movies and they fall in love immediately within 5 minutes, and this is a good play on, do you really know this guy? Like, you've literally met him for 5 minutes, you're head over
Hmm.
heels in love with
Hmm.
him, and she thinks she's found her soulmate. And then we have obviously Corey Sevier sort of comes in. He's sort of
Yeah.
a listicles guy. He sort of makes all of these lists, and he's sort of tasked with finding the top 10 things to do at Christmas in New York. So she sort of helps him because she sort of finds out that Andrew's character goes to a lot of those things, as she
Hmm.
did. Like, they find out that they have these things in common of all of these events that they've gone to at Christmas time, and never run into each other. So it's sort of a little bit, she's helping him, but she's also trying to sort of run into him again. And again, it's really sweet and nice and comforting. I don't think it sort of does anything new, which is why it's
Hmm.
maybe a little bit forgettable.
Right. I just wish she ended up with Andrew Rochelle.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, not
he
that I
is so,
like Corey, but I just love Andrew.
that was one of the sort of nice things as well, is like he's not like a bad, it's not like we find out at the end, oh, he's actually kind of like a bad man of business, or he's like a
Uh-huh. Right.
he's just not right for her.
Uh-huh.
And she sort of falls for Corey's character. I do think the lead, I've never been to New York myself, but I know that it's not what this film portrays. Like, it is probably one of the poorest attempts at
Yeah.
that, like copying, like sort of trying to mimic New York, fake New
Right.
York with what, probably like Vancouver or something. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's pretty abysmal.
That's funny. Yeah, I actually missed this is one I didn't get watched. I just ran out of time. But yeah, I have a feeling that I would be like, oh no, be with Andrew Buchel. He's so great. I just hope they keep casting him, and we hope we get to see him in more leads.
Yeah.
And I should say that if you want my thoughts on like the Up TV movies, we have a separate episode on that. I also have a separate episode on It's a Wonderful Knife, holiday horror. So if you want to know my thoughts on that, we're not covering every single non-Hallmark
Hmm.
Christmas movie in this episode. This is kind of a grab bag of everything, and so that's the two lifetimes. What would you give Christmas plus one?
Um. Again, I'd probably give it a 2.5. It's not bad by any means. It's probably just
Mm-hmm.
a little bit forgettable. And if you like Corey, definitely watch it. I like Andrew,
Mm-hmm.
definitely watch it. It's
Yeah.
not a bad movie by any means.
Right. Right. Okay. Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/hallmarkies. Well, let's talk about Netflix. So we have Best Christmas Ever,
Hmm.
best.christmas.ever on Netflix. It's their solo release. Kind of crazy. And or I mean, I guess that family switch one, I guess that actually is, I didn't realize that was a holiday when I was preparing the preview. I didn't realize that was holiday, but I
Mhm.
guess I guess it is. So there's that. But this is their lone like rom-com-y, I guess more of one.
Mhm.
And it's when a twist of fate lands Charlotte and her family at her old college friend Jackie's house only days before Christmas. She sees the opportunity to prove her old friend's life isn't as wonderful as it seems from her holiday newsletter. And it stars Brandy and Heather Graham and Jason Biggs. So overall, what do you think of this?
Um, yeah, I thought it was fine. I don't think it was amazing. I was excited. I really like Brandy, and I hadn't seen her in anything in ages. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure if she's done any sort of Christmas movies before, but I've certainly not seen them.
Right.
I really like the cast just in general. Um, I do think the budget sort of let it down a little bit. I know it's sort of a TV movie, but I think when it's Netflix, you sort of feel like there's a little bit more money on the screen. Um, and I do think we sort of felt the budget a little bit more. Um, I sort
Mm-hmm.
of guessed the sort of twist, the sort of emotional twist towards the end. I sort of guessed that a little bit earlier on, so it
Mm-hmm.
didn't sort of is it affect me as hard as it's probably wanting. But I think overall it's perfectly fine. It's just so surprising to me that this is all Netflix has given us.
Yeah. Yeah, so this might be a little spoiler. So if I mean it is a spoiler, but I just want to talk about it. So if you are listening and you don't want to hear the spoiler, skip ahead a little bit. But the thing is that was my main problem, and I was really worried about this movie. I think I gave it a coal in the preview because it just sounded kind of mean. And the thing that didn't really work for me is that just because this woman has a lost a child and
Hmm.
had a son die, that's all of a sudden okay, then I need to treat her right, and I shouldn't be like envious of her, and I shouldn't be like, it was like as if that kind of like, okay, like knowing that information, I'm going to treat her completely differently, like
Hmm.
that changes everything. Like what? Like to me that was just sort of bizarre. Like you should treat somebody with dignity, like whether they've happened to have lost a child or not. And they were acting almost as if like her actions leading up to that point were like valid because it was seemingly easy for Brandy's character. Life was easy. She had this, genius, everything she's bragging about in the newsletter, right? And but and so once you find out, oh, life's not that easy for her, then all of a sudden I shouldn't hate her anymore. Like that's not the way that that things work. Like, and so I found Heather's character to be extremely unlikable, and I just, the whole premise was very difficult for me. I do think that I wish that the entire movie had been about the kids investigating Santa. That was way better, in my opinion, than anything involving the women. That was just so much more charming and funny and authentic, and so I if it was me, I would like completely reframe this whole movie and have it be about these two kids.
Yeah, I like the kids. I like the husbands.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, she was sort of bordering on mean girl.
Yeah.
The fact that this woman has been so successful is sort of a reason to
To
dislike
hate
her.
her. Yeah.
Yeah, like your life is perfect. Not nobody's life is perfect. The fact that she's, a grown woman who doesn't realize that, was
Right.
really frustrating.
Right.
Um, and the fact that she's like sort of being very mean girl and trying to like, I'll find something imperfect about your life just so I can sort of shove it in your face.
Mm-hmm.
It's like she's not saying
Yeah.
her life is perfect. She's just doing what a lot of families do and just talking about their accomplishments of the year of like, this is what my family's done this year. you
Yeah.
know, it's a holiday one. It's not going to be all negative and, it's not going to have every aspect of our life. So yeah, it was sort of bordering on mean girls sort of jealousy that was sort of spawned out of sort of nowhere. Um, and the whole like jealous of her husband and
Yeah.
her relationship was just like very forced.
Well, yeah, and then
That's
they
it.
made it because Brandy's character had dated Jason Biggs, and so there was like jealousy and animosity there. And then she's attracted to Brandy's husband, and like they could have maybe done some interesting things with that, but it was just kind of like, ugh, I don't like any of
Yeah,
these people. But if it was just about the kids and Santa, that was cute.
yeah, the kids were really good and really well cast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I gave it 2.5 crowns.
Yeah, I'll probably go with that 2.5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Another not so great entry in my book is Dashing Through the Snow. It's on Disney Plus. And this is Eddie Garrick is a good-hearted man who has lost his belief in the wonder of Christmas. While spending time with his 9-year-old daughter, on Christmas Eve, he befriends a mysterious man in a red suit named Nick. And I cannot believe that Disney like gave this the full treatment. Like it has the castle logo in the front. This is not just something they like added to the catalog for content. This is not something that's just like on Hulu or whatever. This is on Disney Plus with the castle logo in front. This is a like this. I just couldn't believe that, and I just I hated it so much. I mean, I just thought that I, I thought that everybody was so annoying and I hated all the characters. And Ludacris, I don't know if rarely have I seen someone just completely sleepwalk through a role. It looked like there was somebody with cue cards off to the side in every scene where he was just like, oh, your name's Nicholas. Oh, what? That's a crazy, thing. What are you doing in my house? Like, just like nothing. And he can be charming. I've seen him be charming in the Fast and Furious movies and other stuff. I've seen him be good. He was terrible in this. It was absolutely awful. I know. I found it incredibly annoying, and I just could not like. It is appropriate on this absolutely abysmal year for Walt Disney Corporation that they would even their TV movies, except for Prom Pact, even their TV Christmas movies. This should be a layup. This should be so easy, right?
Hmm.
And I hated it. I thought it was absolutely terrible. Did you watch it?
Did watch it. This is the one I'm sort of mixed on.
Okay.
Because yeah, he's just so bored throughout the entire film. It just
Yeah,
feels
he
like
really is.
yeah, it just comes across as so bored throughout the entire thing.
Yeah.
And it was sort of frustrating because I did like the Nick character. I thought he had great energy, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like, see if the cast of the film matched that energy, it would be so good because there's money on the screen. It's they spent money on it. They clearly went into it thinking that it was going to be successful for them, but he just sort of, like you said, sleepwalked through it. The sort of shenanigans of the sort of people trying to catch him, I thought was introduced a little bit too late, and the amount of times they sort of lose him and have to go find him.
Yeah.
I think I got to like the third or fourth time. I was like, again, like we've done this. It's like very repetitive.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah,
it really
again,
was.
I was just mixed on it because I do think that the character of Nick was really fun and really energetic, and it could have been great if the cast sort of matched his energy
Yeah.
and the script was a little bit tighter.
I'd give it 1 crown. It was just not for me. I did not enjoy it. What would you give it?
I'd give it 1.5. Just again,
Oh,
I thought that
okay.
I thought
Yeah.
I thought the character of Nick was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just
Yeah.
sort of sad that he was sort of on his own.
Disney. What a year. Oh my gosh. Nightmare. Uh, okay. Well, let's let's see, I want to talk about something more positive. Uh, so there's a couple of films that I've seen that you haven't seen, two that are features in the theater that haven't come out there yet. So first, I want to talk about Journey to Bethlehem. We had the director on the podcast. We had Adam Anders on, so that was pretty cool and fun. And one of the creators of Glee, and it was cool to kind of get behind the scenes and talk to him about that. And I guess what I admired about this film is that I liked the fact that I felt like it was really creative, and they really treated the Mary and Joseph story as a love story, which there's grounds for that within the Bible. I mean, he could have he could have sent her to he could have had her killed. I mean, for being pregnant, and when they were betrothed. I mean, he could have had her very harshly punished, and he because after the angel's visit, he chose to be with her, chose to marry her. Like, there is a love story in there, and I kind of thought that was a cool thing to focus on. They even have like a meet cute moment, which maybe was a little much, but I thought it was cute. And great cast. And I felt like everybody in the cast kind of knew what they were in, especially Antonio Banderas. He really kind of hams it up as Herod. The songs are over the top, but I enjoyed that. And I felt like they were pushing their audience a little bit. This could have been so boring. And some of the other nativity versions are just too pious, and there's just nothing interesting kind of about, because we all know the story. Like, bring something to it, that's going to make it interesting. And they really did. They really tried. Like, for instance, in Joseph, after he sees the angel, he has a song where he's battling between his angel and his devil, and what's he going to do. And there's literally an angel and a devil that he's singing the song with, and I thought that was creative, and I enjoyed that, and things like that I liked. There are people that this will be too much for them, that that they're too like strict to the Bible, and I understand that, but for me, as someone who's a non-traditional Christian, I'm not an evangelical. I'm not. I appreciated the risks they took. I'm a big musical fan, so that's an easy kind of win for me. And I liked that they kind of made it a love story. And I thought that was refreshing, and so I enjoyed it, and it was kind of cool. It's the first time. In my written review, is the first time that I have been quote tweeted in like a trailer, in a promo.
Oh, fun.
They had Rachel's reviews, yeah, so that was sort of fun. That's never happened to me I've had some indies, but I've never had a like movie that got a big rollout, quote tweet me, quote promo me. So that was fun. So if you are like religious at all, and you're up for something a little different, I think it's worth watching. Then the other one in theaters is called The Holdovers, and this, I guess, not coming to UK until January, which is a real shame, because this is one of the best films of 2023. I hope it gets a lot of attention come Oscars. It's a simple movie. It's just about these basically three people that are the holdovers, that don't have anywhere to go for Christmas break. One's a professor, one's the cafeteria worker, and one is the student over the break, and the various kind of things that happen to them as shenanigans and whatever. It's so well written. It's so well done. It's funny. It's sweet. It's a absolutely excellent script. Well, great performances. I just loved it. It's heartwarming without being cloying. It's not like a Dead Poet Society inspirational teacher kind of thing. It's not. It's more nuanced than that. It's probably my favorite movie of the whole year. It was just as far as like if we're talking about like absolute favorites, then there'd be Red, White, and Royal Blue. But as far as like movies that I really think are like the best movie of the year, and I really enjoyed, it would be The Holdovers. So if you can see it where you're at, definitely check it out. It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I have to wait until January.
It's so frustrating. So
It's such a big bunch of like movies that come out in January here. It's and even in February. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, I know. I wish that they would make that more streamlined in these days, especially with things getting pirated and stuff. Like it should just be all at the same time. You're just asking for that kind of thing to happen.
Yeah,
but
100%.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the good folks over at Baker Bookhouse Publishing and their fun holiday reads. Hallmarkies, if you can't get enough of the Countdown to Christmas movies, we have a treat for you. Get into the holiday spirit with not one, but two enchanting Christmas romance novels. First, immerse yourself in All's Fair in Love and Christmas by Sarah Monzon. An office rivals to more romance about two colleagues who have to use their Christmas spirits to compete for a big promotion. And for more enchantment, dive into You Make It Feel Like Christmas by Toni Shiloh, where a woman must return to her hometown for her sister's wedding to her ex-boyfriend, but she might end up finding a new love that lasts beyond Christmas Day. So grab your hot cocoa, snuggle under a blanket, and let these books sweep you off your feet. Purchase You Make It Feel Like Christmas and All's Fair in Love and Christmas for 30% off and free shipping at bakerbookhouse.com. That's bakerbookhouse.com, or you can use the affiliate link below. Let's talk a little bit about the Roku movie/shows. So there was a series called The Holiday Shift. And this was, I didn't even know that this was coming out. We didn't talk about it in the preview, but luckily this is a quick watch. It's only, I think, 5 episodes, 22 minutes. It's basically like the length of a movie. So, it's not like a long series watch, but a romantic comedy series following the intersecting love stories of young mall employees during the holiday season. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought this was charming and funny. I love the cast. I think they were just a great, and it was fun to see some of our Hall stars in there. Daniel Bacon particularly is it was enjoyable to see him get like a pretty decent part as the mall manager. He was good. If you like Baby Daddy, seeing Jean-Luc Bilodeau, he is, I think, pretty good in this. And you have the leads, Devin Nakota and Varun Saranga. Great chemistry. I thoroughly enjoyed it. What did you think?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I haven't been able to finish it yet. I didn't get to the Roku movie either. But I watched 3 episodes, and again, I really enjoyed it. I think as a retail worker as well, it's just an extra level of like appreciation. It really reminded me a lot of Superstore. The American Ferrera show.
It's good. I haven't never watched it.
Oh, Superstore's so good. Probably not as sort of funny, but definitely in terms of like the romantic storyline, it felt very similar. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I really want to finish it.
Yeah.
And it's sort of surprising to me a lot of networks don't do this, don't have a Christmas show that, it just comes out at Christmas. We know Hallmark's doing it, but they're probably not going to release that till like 2030 or something. We're just never going to see this thing.
They filmed it. I guess we're never going to release it. So bizarre.
Yeah, so crazy. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it was nice too because most of the leads were accurately cast as far as like they were supposed to be young people working at this mall, and they look like young actors, which was nice. And there were some funny jokes like that. I laughed every time that suitcase burst into flames. Like, you're never gonna sell one of those.
So loved it whenever the older man was like sleeping, just napping everywhere.
Yeah. So I think that Hallmark will really enjoy it. And it's like pretty tame. I mean, I think maybe you'd say PG-13, but nothing like, nothing too bad as far as language or anything like that. You're fine. So then they also had, I mean, I would give the Holiday Shift like 4.25 crowns. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'll go 4. I haven't finished it yet. But I'll go 4 from what I've seen so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then they had How to Fall in Love by Christmas with Terry Hatcher. And this one, it's beloved writer turned CEO of her own Goop-like lifestyle brand, Prism, must secure a partnership with Singled Out to save her company. The only way to appease them is for her to write a column on falling in love by Christmas with the help of charming and handsome photographer who has been assigned to the piece. This one for me was just like, it was fine. It didn't do, it was very businessy, a lot of business talk, these discussions about the brand. And I mean, the idea of her having to go because they want to get this deal with Singled Out, that she would be the one that would have to go and do it is a little ridiculous. But you do have the guy who's the photographer in this one, which is switching it up a little bit. But it was had, I think, good leads, and it was fine. It's just a little boring, I would say. So I would give this one like a 3 crowns. It was, again, fine. Terry Hatcher's is good. So then we had in Hulu, we had 2 movies on Hulu. First one, Christmas Frequency, and then Reporting for Christmas. Do you get to see either of these?
I don't know.
Okay. So Christmas Frequency, it's basically, it's about Denise Richards' character who hosts this like popular radio show. And in the world of this movie, like radio personalities are still like huge stars, like, and having a radio show is like big money, evidently. And so that Denise's character breaks up with her husband, or they're on a break, and they end up like doing this whole thing where they're setting her up on all these blind dates. And the producer the producer is kind of in love with this guy who works for him, but he ends up becoming one of the blind dates, and then they end up, there's this big like company party, and so she gets like more and more jealous, but then like her entire career is based on this blind date working out. And so she's like, I can't be with you, because because you have to go out with Denise's character. Anyway, it's silly, but it was fine. Again, this was a pretty bland one, but I liked it well enough, I guess. I would give it probably 3. I would also give it 3 crowns. Yeah. Okay. And I did notice that like people were being extremely harsh about Denise Richards' appearance on Letterboxd. And I just feel like it's not like really that helpful or interesting, to go on and on about somebody. You can just say this actress didn't work for me in the role. There's no reason to be mean about somebody's appearance. I just hate that. And so don't do that, guys. Please be nice. Just say if it doesn't work the performance, or you think she's miscast, that's fine. Say that. You don't have to say that, these mean things in the comments. Okay, so then there's Reporting for Christmas. And this is basically this woman, she gets assigned to go do this report on this town that makes these toys. And she's like really cynical and hates Christmas. And of course, as she's there, she falls for the head of the toy maker and the town and Christmas. And we've seen this movie a billion times. There was just really nothing. This was nothing. I'd give it two crowns. Like if you've never seen this story before, you've never watched a Hallmark movie, it's like, okay. But it just does, I don't know. It was just too much the same.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
We have EXMAS, which was on Freevee. And this stars Leighton Meester and Robbie Amell when Graham decides to surprise his family by traveling home for Christmas. He is shocked to discover them already celebrating with an unexpected guest of honor, his ex-fiancée, Allie. So did you get a chance to see this?
I did, yeah. I saw this one.
What'd you think?
This one's going to be really hard to beat for me.
Yeah.
I thought it was literally a perfect movie. Like, it's so funny. Like, so funny. And like not mean-spirited. There's little moments here and there.
Yeah.
But like overall, just really, really funny, really, really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I loved his family so much.
Yeah.
There wasn't one character in this where I was like, I don't like even like the ridiculous sort of love interest they get sort of midway through the film. They sort of try to sort of compete against each other, I guess, for like the worst the worst ever. But yeah, it was so funny. I love Leighton Meester so much. She's just not in enough. Like Robbie Amell is just so charming.
Yeah.
He's just so good in everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love this movie.
All right, good. Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed it too. And to be honest, sort of the family shenanigans brand of holiday movies usually aren't for me. You know, I'm not a big fan of the Family Stone, Happiest Season. I had my issues with things like that. I just find them kind of stressful and they're just not that fun for me. And so that was the thing I was sort of the most worried about. But you're right. I agree. The family was really funny. I mean, they had like that scene where they all got high on accident. That was hilarious. I laughed.
So funny.
And I guess part of what worked for me about this movie is that I could totally picture my family doing this. Like, because you know, when you're with somebody, or a family member is with somebody for a long time, you do get kind of attached and they become a member of the family. And so then when they break up, it's sort of hard. And you know, and so like if my parents were like 100% sure that one of my siblings that had dated somebody weren't coming for Christmas, if they said, like he does at the beginning of this movie, he's like, I am not coming 100%. And so if they knew that and they just happened to kind of run into one of the exes and who need a place to stay for Christmas, I could totally picture my family being like, great. And so as outlandish as the premise sounded, I do think there was sort of a little bit of believability in there with it. And so I thought it really delivered on the laughs and the family moments and the Christmas. And I wrote in my review, I said EXMAS wins because it has the energy of the old screwball comedies from the 50s, and it never allows our leads to be too mean-spirited or judgmental. It's always kept within a space where we believe them falling in love again by the end of the film. There are also a lot of funny family moments with everything from ice fishing to a hilarious sequence where they all accidentally get high. And that's what I think, that it kind of tapped into that idea of sort of the screwball comedies from the 50s of the shenanigans, the something like that you get in Christmas in Connecticut and bringing up baby and stuff like that, that really worked for me. And two super likable leads. I agree with you. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I was happy to see that my review, that Donna Benedicto, who plays the other girlfriend, the other woman that you were talking about, she shared my review, and then Michael Hitchcock, who's also a supporting actor, and he also shared my review and said thank you for the review, which made me feel good. So it's nice when the actors sort of notice reviews and they like a film. So I really enjoyed it. I gave it an 8 out of 10 in my review, but that's under like normal, like comparing it to normal movies, as opposed to the kind of Hallmark filter that the Crowns are. So yeah, I would give it like, I don't know. I give it very high. Very high. What are you going to give it?
I'm going to give it 5 because I
Yeah.
really don't think that there's anything. I mean, the very simple fact that his family love her so much
Yeah.
throughout the film is so funny.
Yeah. it
Like,
really is. They like her better than him.
they like her better than him. Like, it's so funny, and there was just so many like little one-liners that I had to keep reminding it, like
Yeah.
from his parents, of just these little comments that were so funny. So yeah, perfect movie for me. It's going to be a hard one to beat.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to give it a 5. What the heck? Why not? I really enjoyed it, and it made me happy. So I think that a lot of the Hallmarkies will really enjoy it. And it's always hard with comedies because, it's just the most subjective kind of, like our friend Natasha, she didn't like it. So that's why I was like, I don't know what Michelle will think.
Yeah, even when it does get seriously, it feels earned.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like they're sort
Yeah.
of trying to sort of win the audience over, or sort of do a twist for the sake of a twist.
Yeah.
It just felt really earned for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really worked on all levels for me.
And it's sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this available, it's for on the Freevee app. It's free. There's some ads. So, yeah, it's a winner. The last one that we're going to talk about is on the Peacock app, at least here in the States, not over there, unfortunately, but is the movie Genie. And we didn't have this in the preview. I hadn't heard about it until 2 days ago. And so then I watched it yesterday, and it's with Melissa McCarthy and Papa Asudu. And again, I had no idea this was coming out, but as I was watching it, I was like, this is really well written. This is really fun. And then I look and I see written by Richard Curtis. And if people don't know Richard Curtis, he's the one who did Notting Hill, About Time, Love Actually, Bridget Jones, For Weddings of Funeral. He's a legend. And so I'm like, okay, now it's making sense. And it's Flora, a genie trapped for more than 2,000 years inside an antique jewelry box, is accidentally called to service by Bernard, whose life is unraveling around him. And I think it's kind of amazing that I liked this as well as I did, because the whole workaholic dad trope is one of my least favorites. I just usually find it very frustrating, and I'm like, he has to keep his job. Like, why are you shaming the man for working? And I don't know, I just hate it. Like, I'm not a big fan of movies like Hook or what was the Christopher Robin, Winnie the Pooh one with Ewan McGregor. I didn't like that. It worked in Mary Poppins. It almost never works again. I hate that trope. But here it is. I mean, they lean into that trope hard. So the fact that I still liked it says something about how good the writing was. Because yeah, he's like the worst person because he works a lot, I guess. And he's late for getting to his daughter's birthday party at the beginning of the movie. And he had like a toy bear, but it fell off of his bike and he didn't see it or whatever. And so he comes with no present. And that's how he ends up with the jewelry box through various conferences. Anyway. And so, like, I guess, especially in his case, it's like he's actively trying, it's not like he's a Scrooge who is oblivious kind of to the needs of the people around him. It's not like he's a bad man of business, that's just sort of, he doesn't care. Like, he's really trying to be a good dad, but it's just hard because of his job and everything. And so Melissa McCarthy appears as this genie, and she can be kind of hit and miss, especially in these Netflix type or streaming type shows, but she was really funny. I was laughing throughout. They had a great banter between the two of them. I was unfamiliar with him, but his charming. I really enjoyed it. I mean, just like funny jokes. Like, I love the joke where they walk past a window of a gym. So she's looking in. She sees somebody with like one of those high bar kind of things. And she's like, this is so disappointing. It's like, why? You would think after all this time that this kind of torture would be outlawed. And he's like, oh, no, they pay for that. They pay to use, that's in the gym. They pay for that. And she's like, sure. And then she's like pounding on the glass. She's like, I will avenge you. And that was, I thought, really funny. And that's the kind of humor that I was laughing throughout. It's sweet. It has a nice message. It is Christmas, Christmassy. There's Christmas feel to it. And so I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's just so fun when something comes out of nowhere that you never even heard of, and then ends up being great. And there's something the whole family can watch. Is PG. There's not that many PG comedies, these days, that are live action, that aren't animated. So this is one the whole family can watch, really enjoy together. And so, yeah, I mean, I would give this one like 4.75. I can't give it a 5 just because I really dislike that trope. They did it about as well as you could. And so I highly recommend it. Check out Genie on Peacock. It's really cute.
Yeah, can't wait to see it. It's out next week here, so.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we've been seeing trailers for it for weeks though, because
oh, really?
It's the big sort of Sky Cinema release this year. Sky Cinema are sort of one of the big major providers over here. And they do a bunch of Christmas movies every year. And 9 times out of 10 they don't make it over to the US. So like, you probably heard me talk about a lot of them last year. There was This Is Christmas with Alfie Enoch. There was Answer movie. There was the movie with the lead from, his name's escaping me, but
there was that Yours, Theirs, and Christmas, right? Or something like that. And isn't there, I think there's a sequel for that coming out.
That's the sequel, yeah, that's coming out. That's on Sky Cinema. So yeah, it was nice to see that this one is actually being distributed elsewhere even before it makes its way over here. So yeah, it's
it'll be interesting.
I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what your experience is, because it's really big, the reverse to mine, where you're gonna have it kind of hyped and you're gonna be like, whereas I had never heard of it. I hadn't seen a trailer. I knew nothing about it. And then it just kind of came across, and so I was like, I'll give this a shot, and I watched it, and I really, really enjoyed it. But so let me just see what you think, and if you like it as much as I did, I'll be curious. You have to report back next time. But there we go. So an interesting little group. The holdovers really strong. EXMAS is probably I would say EXMAS is probably our favorite. As far as these kind of Christmas TV movie stuff, it's definitely our favorite that we've both seen.
100%.
Yeah. So let us know what you think of these movies. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And if you have others that aren't if you have others that you've seen that we haven't covered on the pod, either in this episode or others, then let us know, because there's just so much. It's hard to keep track of everything. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on whatever you've been watching in this holiday season. And Michelle, where can people follow you?
On Twitter at Michelle R. Benson.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And I'll put my link to my review of both The Holdovers and EXMAS and Journey to Bethlehem. I'll put all that in the comments, in the description. So check that out. And then also make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. 5 stars. And if you are listening on or watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group, which is the biggest way that you can support us. And you get weekly exclusive reviews and watch-alongs. We're having director Lee Friedlander on next week, and that's going to be super fun. So take advantage of that, and please check out the Patreon. And then we also have our merch store where we have new designs, and we're actually, both Michelle and I are wearing merch designs. So take a look at the merch store. We sure appreciate that. And thanks so much, everybody. And Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.